Gideon is one of the most senior members of the Round Table Hold and acts as one of the main characters responsible for delivering world exposition to you. But how much of what he says can you trust? Let's start at the beginning. When you first arrive at the Round Table Hold, Gideon is one of the first people to greet you.
Oh, this is a rare occasion. I can't remember the last time a new Tarnished made their way to the Round Table. Very well. As your senior, I bid you welcome. It is safe here. You may let down your guard.
By his tone of surprise, we can assume that a new Tarnished walking into this secret hub is not a common occurrence. But Gideon mentions that he is of seniority, indicating some hierarchy here. Perhaps Gideon was one of the first to settle, or even the one responsible for establishing the Round Table Hold. Or maybe the use of senior is simply because he is older. In Zuli's video, you can see what Gideon looks like under his helmet. He is indeed an older looking fellow. Gideon's duplicitous nature becomes apparent as he switches between assurances of safety and warnings to remain vigilant.
You are a mere visitor to the Round Table, nothing more. A house guest, yet to earn their keep. Remember your place, newcomer.
The existence of a ranking within the Round Table is reinforced here, with Gideon placing you at the bottom of the pecking order. Trying to talk to him further exposes the disdain he holds for your presence.
If you haven't anything to say, I would prefer you didn't pester me for attention. Try not to make a spectacle of yourself either. Or are you as irredeemably foolish as you appear?
You don't have a purpose here, and therefore are not worthy of his time or respect. The theme of your usefulness to him will become a recurring motif throughout his story. To get on Gideon's good side and prove yourself worthy, he instructs you to claim a great rune, a shard from the Elden Ring, and then the two fingers will impart their wisdom onto you. Before we dive deeper into Gideon's deceit, here is a quick recap of the universe's structure, as it has been a while, and if anyone new here needs a summary. There is an abstract outer being called the Greater Will, a cosmic force considered a deity. You can't see it or communicate directly with it. Its only form of communication is with beings called the Two Fingers, envoys of the Greater Will who use the language of light. The only people who can interpret this cryptic language are the finger readers. When you get your first rune, the doors in the Round Table Hold will open, where you can meet Enya, a finger reader, and a set of two fingers. Now, the reason I wanted to define this chain of communication is because it's inherently flawed. By the time the wisdom of the Greater Will reaches you, the Tarnished, it has traversed through 3 intermediaries. It's a game of cosmic telephone, with each link in the chain adding its own layer of interpretation. Can you trust the accuracy of the messages received after they've undergone this convoluted journey? No, of course not. Keep that in mind for now. When you receive your first rune, Gideon finally acknowledges you as a Round Table member, but there's more to his welcome than meets the eye.
I bid you welcome. As a true member of the Round Table, I am known as Gideon Ofnir. As a Tarnished who wishes to stand before the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord, I am accumulating knowledge. To be all-knowing.
Here, Gideon reveals that he is also trying to become Elden Lord. And if you realise the implications of this, that means that Gideon is not just an ally guiding you to become Elden Lord, he is also your competition. Despite appearing forthcoming with crucial information, Gideon subtly manipulates you to further his agenda.
The inheritors of the great runes, the Shard Bearers. We of the Round Table know the location of 5 of them, including the one you defeated.
He tells you the names and locations of 5 Shard Bearers, demigods with great runes needed to repair the Elden Ring. So if Gideon knows who has the runes, why doesn't he just get them for himself? He is trying to become Elden Lord, right? Well, in the nicest possible way, And I don't know why I'm being nice to Gideon. He is a dick. Gideon is wise, but not intelligent. He has worldly knowledge, yes. He has a vast library. He has an entire network of spies. He is our primary source of exposition about the world and the demigod family tree. But that's all it is, information. Knowledge is power, but how can one claim that power if they never even leave the Round Table hold?
I'll trade your findings for a hidden treasure or a long-lost right, known only to me. We both desire to stand before the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. As such, I hope we are compelled to work together.
Gideon sees you as a pawn, expendable for only one purpose: collect great runes for him. As an incentive, he teases you with the unknown locations of a few other shard bearers, like a carrot dangling from a string in front of you. This calculated move is Gideon's way of enticing you to feed him information in exchange for exclusive spells. One of these spells is called Lord's Divine Fortification, an incantation taught to Gideon the All-Knowing by the Two Fingers. This is a crucial sentence, revealing that Gideon has been a student of the Two Fingers. Gideon gained true knowledge after his long exchange with the Two Fingers, discovering all had been broken long ago, that the trembling fingers, bent with age, and the Erdtree itself were no exception. Through his intimate studying with and of the Two Fingers, he too discovered that something wasn't right. Whether he concluded that the fingers were unreliable because they were senile, bent with age, or broken, as in having a broken connection to the greater will, he concluded not to trust them. He even makes a comment to us about their redundancy.
The Two Fingers lost their purpose a long time ago.
The significance of this revelation ties back to the broader theme of information reliability, and the true nature of the greater will is unveiled when you reach the Erdtree's entrance, only to find it blocked by impenetrable thorns. This unforeseen obstacle shocks Ennia and the Fingers, disrupting the plan for you to meet Queen Marika inside the tree. The Two Fingers then try to commune with the greater will for guidance. However, this time it is not a short or straightforward process.
But thousands, if not tens of thousands, of moons must first pass.
That is an excessive amount of time to receive an answer. Why is this time different from all the other times? When you previously met with Ennia, the Fingers would respond instantly, giving guidance, allegedly, straight from the greater will. But this time, it's going to be years and years. As I mentioned, you do not receive information directly from the source, the greater will. You can't see it, you can't hear it. The greater will isn't tangible. So, how do you know it's still here? In the very first cutscene of the game, the narrator tells us,
"A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will."
This revelation challenges the authenticity of the guidance provided by the Two Fingers throughout the game. The greater will has abandoned the lands between after seeing the disarray that occurred because of the shattering. All that is left of its influence, but because the greater will isn't visible, no one would likely know that it had turned its back on this world, apart from the Fingers. All this time, the Fingers have been giving guidance to us, but in reality, they are frauds. Ennia even translates a sentence that directly contradicts what we heard in the intro cinematic.
But the greater will has not abandoned the realm, nor the life that inhabits it.
Of course, the Fingers would tell us, no, don't worry, the greater will is still here to try and misdirect us, but as Ennia revealed, trying to consult them directly will take a lifetime, which doesn't add up. I think the greater will essentially gave the Fingers a script to rehearse on directing suitable tarnish to restore the Golden Order, you have not been having a back and forth conversation with the Greater Will. It's closer to listening to a voicemail message. So that explains why the fingers no longer have a script to refer to when things go rogue. They call out to the Greater Will for help. But as we have established, it is nowhere to be found. Their cries for help echo into nothingness, locking them in a dormant state until they receive a reply they will never get. The status of other two fingers supports this theory. That's right, the ones in the round table hold are not the only ones that exist. At the top of each divine tower, you can find a pair of two fingers. However, there is something different about these. Cracked, withered, and collapsed. Dead. If you know anything about Rani's questline, you will understand that the two fingers can't be killed that easily. You go on this whole quest to locate an ancient weapon that is the only item capable of harming them, as Rani wants to eliminate hers so she can be free. This weapon is locked up deep underground in a forgotten city for centuries, so it is unlikely to be responsible for the demise of all those fingers atop the towers. There is a corresponding divine tower for each great rune you collect from the shard bearers. You go there to unlock different effects that each rune provides, and if each tower corresponds to each demigod, then so do each set of fingers. Based on Rani's quest, she had a set of two fingers meant to be her advisor, so maybe her siblings had the same. However, when the shattering occurred, the family descended into chaos and greed, all vying for power. All of their two fingers went to consult the Greater Will on how to proceed, but as we established in the opening cutscene, this is when the Greater Will abandoned them all. So all these fingers got locked in the same dormant state that the fingers in the round table hold are now in. They have been stuck like this for years, which explains why they are dried up and perished when you find them. I hope that helps show the current state of the fingers and their deceit. So what about the Erd Tree rejecting you? So those thorns that prevented you from passing are initially thought to be from the Erd Tree itself. Hence, Enya tells us,
"The Erd Tree has burned you."
However, if you remember the description from that unique Gideon spell earlier, you will recall it mentioning that the fingers bent with age, and the Erd Tree itself were no exception. This suggests an additional explanation. The Erd Tree, like the fingers, is aging and dying. Clues about the Erd Tree's deteriorating state are found in its seeds, a phenomenon never witnessed before the shattering. The Erd Tree was once perfect and eternal, and thus was it believed that Erd Tree seeds could not exist, until one day, when the Elden Ring was shattered, these seeds flew from the Erd Tree, scattering across the various lands, as if life itself knew that its end had come. The seed scattering after the Elden Ring shattering symbolizes the acknowledgement of the Erd Tree's impending demise. This biological instinct aligns with the real-life behavior of certain plants, known as annuals, that drop seeds at the end of their lifespan. The Erd Tree devised a strategy to secure the continuation of its lineage through self-sowing. So if the Erd Tree is dying, if not already dead, it's unlikely to have grown thorns of its own. This is supported by Enya and the fingers being surprised when you inform them. Their reaction indicates something like this never happens, because it's not the tree's doing, but Radagon's, the one inside the tree. As a quick summary, Radagon is trying to repair the Elden Ring after Marika shattered it. He wants things to return to how they were, with the Golden Order still the governing principle of the lands between. So he summoned Thorns to cover the entranceway to stop anyone from interfering. Just as a heads up, this is a theory, as it's not explicitly confirmed anywhere to be Radagon's doing definitely, but the pattern and shape of the thorns match the same pattern you can find on statues of Radagon. It's part of his symbology. This is corroborated by the item Radagon's Scar Seal, which has that same crosshatch pattern. And by seal, this refers to a design or stamp symbolizing authenticity. Therefore, Radagon's symbol is this, and the thorns in front of the Erd Tree signify the same. When you clicked on this video, I said it would be about Gideon, and I promise I'm returning to him in a second. The significance of the thorns is also essential when considering Morgott, an important character whose last words shed light on the thorn's purpose.
Tarnished. Thou art but a fool. The Erd Tree wards off all who deign approach.
Morgott's denial of entry to the Erd Tree implies that the thorns are not exclusively for you, the Tarnished, but for anyone seeking to usurp Radagon as Elden Lord.
None may claim the title of Elden Lord. Thy deeds shall be met with failure, just as I.
Words that will foreshadow our later encounter with Gideon. Now we're going to fast forward a bit here. To gain access to Tree, you need to burn Tree, but not with normal fire, special fire. Go to location of special fire, kill Guardian, use Melina as kindling to start fire, go to space-time pocket dimension, take rune that makes everyone die again. You are now ready to become Elden Lord, or at least in theory. As you approach the Erd Tree again, a surprising encounter awaits with Gideon. Leaving the safety of the Round Table hold, Gideon's intentions become clear. He's not there to wish you well on your journey, but to obstruct your path to the Elden Ring.
I knew you'd come, to stand before the Elden Ring, to become Elden Lord. What a sad state of affairs. I commend your spirit, but alas, none shall take the throne.
Like Morgott, Gideon echoes the same sentiment. No one can become Elden Lord, and he is here to ensure that it stays that way. Gideon is prepared to fight you to the death for this. This may come as a surprise from an NPC you thought was your ally. You have been compiling your knowledge together. Calling him a friend may be a bit of a stretch, but as far as you knew, Gideon wanted to become Elden Lord and was helping you at the same time. And because of this, it is strange because Gideon doesn't say this is why he is fighting you. It's not a Highlander, there can be only one moment. He says that no one can become Elden Lord, including himself. Amidst the confrontation, Gideon discloses crucial information.
Queen Marika has high hopes for us, that we continue to struggle. Unto eternity.
This revelation becomes the foundation of a Gideon's perspective and his decision to stand between you, the Tarnished, and the throne. He understands that Marika wants everyone to remain in a state of struggle forever. But how did he come to know this? We learn from the description of his armor, the All-Knowing set. Knowledge begins with the recognition of one's ignorance, the realization that the search for knowledge is unending. But when Gideon glimpsed into the will of Queen Marika, he shuddered in fear. At the end that should not be. Gideon saw something that changed his perspective, Marika's will. As detailed in a previous video of mine, Marika's will involves the Tarnished growing stronger to defeat her demigod children, collect the Great Rune pieces, kill her captor, and ultimately repair the Elden Ring for a better world. However, the extent to which Marika shared this information with the inhabitants of the Lands Between remains to be determined.
In Marika's own words, then, after thy death, I will give back what I once claimed, return to the Lands Between, wage war, and brandish the Elden Ring, grow strong in the face of death.
Alarmed by the sinister interpretation of Marika's words, particularly the idea of an eternal training arc involving death, Gideon chose to turn away from changing the world and instead immersed himself in study. This is where we arrive at the first theory of Gideon's finale. Gideon doesn't like change. Gideon is ever-consuming knowledge. He must become all-knowing, yet he says,
The pursuit of knowledge is without end, for knowledge is never a thing complete.
Amidst his quest for perpetual enlightenment, He falls prey to a fallacy, the belief that the pursuit of knowledge is never complete. This fallacy becomes more profound when Gideon interprets Marika's will about struggling far too literally. Gideon envisions a fate of eternal struggle akin to his eternal pursuit of knowledge. This perspective is challenged with your arrival. You are someone who is not happy with accepting an eternal struggle. You want to become Elden Lord and will let nothing stop you, not information, prophecy, or logic. And Gideon envied you for that. The comfort he found in accepting an eternal struggle is juxtaposed with your refusal to succumb to it. He wasn't willing to go headfirst into the unknown. He had to prepare and know exactly what would happen at every stage. The extent of this envy is palpable in his last words.
I know in my bones a tarnished cannot become a lord. Not even you. A man cannot kill a god.
In his bones, not his books. This suggests a belief devoid of empirical evidence, a departure from Gideon's usual reliance on books and knowledge. Gideon's lack of supporting evidence reveals his weakness in applying the knowledge he amassed. There is no concrete basis for the assumption that a tarnished cannot become Elden Lord. This reluctance stems from Gideon's fear that your success would undermine his life's work and achievements. He is a man ever consumed by knowledge, coupled with resistance to change when faced with the unknown and unexpected. He just doesn't want it to be true. That is one interpretation of the events. Another is more simple. Gideon is the antagonist. From the moment you arrived at the Round Table, he took pleasure in ridiculing you, until he notices your acquisition of a great rune, at which point he covertly becomes your rival, using you, as I warned at the beginning of this video. He told you where to find the runes, having you do his bidding, then intercepted you at the pivotal last moment. Gideon's intentions with the runes are up to interpretation, whether he sought to steal them for himself, hide them to maintain the status quo, or follow a different agenda altogether. However, the user-manipulator theory gains support from Gideon's treatments of other characters in the Elden Ring world. Ensha, a character guarding Gideon's room, is an example of an instrument in Gideon's schemes. When you collect a piece of a secret medallion, triggering Ensha's attack, it is theorized that Gideon ordered Ensha to retrieve this medallion from your cold, dead hands. When you defeat him, Gideon's reaction is rather lackluster.
Ensha is slain and gone. Finished. Forevermore.
Gideon's apparent lack of distress upon Ensha's defeat suggests a pattern of using individuals until they are no longer of use. The same fate befalls Nephili, Gideon's adopted daughter. If you follow her quest, there is a point where she hits rock bottom, devastated by Gideon's cold and callous methods, namely the slaughter of an innocent village. And what does her father do in response to this? Disown her for displaying a backbone.
So I had no further use for her.
Gideon's track record becomes evident. He uses people until they serve their purpose, make a mistake, or gain autonomy. Your final confrontation with Gideon marks the moment of you now being finally cast aside. Now, if you're aware of the boss order in Elden Ring, you know that Gideon's fight doesn't occur immediately before the last boss, Radagon in the tree. There is one more. Godfrey, aka Horalu, aka the first Elden Lord, aka not a pushover. And Gideon, no offense, full offense, is not a warrior. So if he did plan to gank us on the way to the end of the game, how on earth did he plan to take on Godfrey? Use someone else. You will discover Nephili is a summon outside Godfrey's boss room, so a possible explanation for this is that Gideon sent Nephili ahead to take care of Godfrey for him. He is again using people to further his goal. But what about his last words? If you view Gideon as the big bad bully, you could consider this as nothing more than an insincere comment. As an antagonist, his assertion that a tarnished cannot become a lord is nothing more than an attemptful, hurtful statement meant to undermine your confidence, rather than a comment on the task's impossibility. If it is meant to be a shot at your ego, this would add some sense to what he said at the beginning of the fight.
I knew you'd come.
Like, of course, Gideon, we literally talked about how we were coming here. This isn't some grand reveal that only you figured out. It's an attempt to assert intellectual dominance over you. This theory is quite surface level. It views Gideon as a classic scheming bad guy with no depth to his words, simply bluffs and bravado. And then we arrive at the final theory. Gideon is scared. When Gideon peered into America's will, he didn't interpret it as an endless struggle, as suggested in the first theory. Instead, he saw a void, an end to the world order as he knew it. This revelation instilled fear into Gideon, as he witnessed a scenario where the Golden Order was not restored. He shuddered in fear at the end that should not be. Gideon witnessed a cataclysmic end. He saw you killing Radigan Marika. That's why he says, a man cannot kill a god. It's an exclamation grounded not in certainty, but in disbelief that such an extraordinary feat could occur. Something like that had never happened before. Gideon had never read or studied anything like it. No one ever wanted nor dared to do such a sinful task. Under normal circumstances, a man could not slay a godlike being like Radigan Marika. Gideon's reaction implies that he might not have comprehended the process or the reasons behind your actions. It's unlikely he didn't understand why, and this is why he goes to stop you. It's a decision based on fear. He saw an end that he couldn't fathom, fear of the unknown. An ironic twist for the self-proclaimed all-knowing, who now found himself confronting something he didn't understand. Therefore, you could interpret Gideon's decision to intervene not as a calculated plan or with malicious intentions, but as a genuine fear of the world ending. Gideon's character is a paradoxical combination of endless knowledge in theory, but nothing more than a coward in practice. This is highlighted in his boss fight. He displays a repertoire of diverse spells, which will change depending on how many bosses and quests you have completed. I would recommend Garden of Eyes' video explaining this. It's an excellent detail programmed to reflect how Gideon's parasitical nature manifests in the world. For example, if you have killed Rykard before Gideon's fight, Gideon will now use Rykard's Rancor, a spell you only get access to after trading Rykard's Remembrance at the Round Table Hold. The same happens with Melania and Moog, but the opposite happens with Selen's quest. If you don't visit Master Azure, Gideon will learn Common Azure. This is amusing as it's the only requirement you don't have to fight a boss for, as it's the sorcerer literally handing over the spell. So Gideon, the opportunist and coward that he is, will claim this for himself if you don't. Despite having this library of spells that he stole, he is not a fighter. Based on his reluctance to engage directly with anyone, I doubt he's ever been in a fight, delegating possible combat encounters to his underlings, Ensha and Nephili. It's a coping mechanism for his lack of combat skills and courage, but also most likely combined with a superiority complex as well. Like when you first met with him, he selectively wanted to only converse with those who had proved themselves. His complex extends to you, believing himself to be the most potent tarnished and constantly underestimating your skill. Yet he critically lacks the self-awareness to realize that he is continually projecting his insecurities onto others.
He is a ruthless justiciar who commands a company of inquisitors, reviled for his serpentine demeanor. He's a grotesque old fool grasping for power. Despite knowing next to bloody nothing, he's so far up his own arse he won't suspect a thing. His inevitable display of arrogance will certainly be a sight to behold.
The revelation he experiences upon discovering Marika's intentions adds additional layers to the fears and concerns he has about becoming Elden Lord, so much so that he reaches a junction and chooses to withdraw, perceiving it impossible for any Tarnished to become a Lord, but not before deciding to actively stop anyone else from reaching his former goal. If Gideon can't, then no one can. It's spiteful, it's selfish, and it's so reminiscent of the dog in the manger metaphor. There was a dog lying in a manger who did not eat the grain, but who nevertheless prevented the horse from being able to eat anything either. Whether Gideon is a cunning manipulator or a frightened observer leaves so much room for interpretation, and you might have some thoughts that I didn't mention in this video, so please feel free to discuss anything in the comments below. Thank you for joining me on my return to Elden Ring. It's what I founded this channel on, and there will be more like this coming. I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who has been here and supported me. Anyone still here from when I first made my channel, I'd like to think that I've improved my video style, my video editing, especially my audio as well. I'm still tinkering around with it a bit, but thank you anyone who's been with me through this journey, and of course anyone new who stumbled across my channel. If you want to support me further, you can on my Patreon or YouTube members or Gamer Subs. Please use my code Chalice for 10% off. Big thank you everybody, special thank you now to my channel members and patrons.